At a number 10 spot, we have the Sugisawa, the Cursed Village. In Aoyama Prefecture, at the foot of a mountain, there was once a small village called Sugisawa. Story goes that one day a man who lived there went completely insane, and he did just that because within a single day, the entire population of the village was completely wiped out. After the incident, the local government made a decision to try and hide the incident, meanwhile erasing all sorts of evidence that the village ever existed. However, despite the efforts of the government, the story of Sugisawa has survived through the memories of the people who lived in the areas nearby. And according to the legend, there were 3 signs that revealed the path to this village: a warning sign on the road leading to the village, an old rotting shrine gate at the entrance of the village with a stone shaped like human skull beneath it, and an abandoned building with blood stains on the walls. One particular story about the village involves 3 people who stumbled upon the village while driving up into the mountains. They saw the old beat up shrine gate with a stone shaped like a skull beneath it and decided to explore within the village. After passing under the shrine gate, they found 4 abandoned buildings. Inside one of the buildings, they found a large amount of dried blood on the walls. And then suddenly, the woman in the group felt a presence and they all fled in fear. And when they discovered her, she had pure white hair, and when more help was coming, the girl just suddenly vanished. The 2 men were also never found, and ever since, this place has become known as the most cursed village in all of Japan. At a number 9 spot, we have Gozu, or the Cowhead. Gozu, also known as the Cowhead, is a terrifying Japanese urban legend that has been around since the 17th century. The story goes that there is a creature with the body of a man and the head of a cow that can cause all sorts of supernatural and terrifying events simply by telling its story. And guess what I'm doing today? Telling the story. Legend has it that an entire village was traumatized by the tale and isolated themselves out of fear. The central government caught wind of the story, and fearing it would cause another mass panic, they banned any mention of Gozu. However, the story has still managed to spread throughout Japan. One tale tells of a school teacher who used Gozu to keep his students well behaved on a field trip. He promised to tell them the most mysterious and gloomy story he had ever told, but only if they all behaved well. When the teacher finally told the story, many of the students began to scream and cover their ears. But as if he didn't hear or see them, the man continued with his story. His eyes then turned white and his voice became much deeper than it was in the beginning of his story, as if he was possessed by the Gozu himself. The aftermath was a horrific scene. None of the students ever talked about what happened as they were too scared, and even they were confused by the events that just followed. Kinda sucks that I'm talking about Gozu since it's associated with bad luck, but hey, that's my job. I do it for you guys. Number 8, the corner game. The corner game, also known as the square or 4 corners game, is a popular urban legend game that originated in East Asia, more specifically in parts of Japan and or Korea. The whole purpose of the game is to summon a supernatural entity. So as you can tell, what a great game to play. The origin of the game is unclear, with some sources suggesting it is Korean while others believing it is based on a Japanese story. However, it doesn't really matter. The game requires an empty room and the players must turn off all the lights except for the ones in the room. The players must then stand in 4 corners of the room and face the corner. The speaker counts to 3 and each player moves clockwise to the next person's position. During the ritual, supernatural situations such as an extra person or a missing person are said to occur. If there is a missing person, the players must speak their name backwards 3 times and then put their backs against the wall. The person closest to the light should then turn it off and the missing person will reappear. If there is an extra person, the players must gather at the light switch and speak their names backwards 3 times again. After that, they should open the lights and leave the room without speaking to the extra person. And you might be asking, what happens if you speak to the extra person? Well, there's a slight chance you might pass away. So there's that. Have fun playing. At a number 7 spot, we have Yamanoke. In 2007, a creepy story called Yamanoke was posted on 2chan, which is a popular Japanese forum for those who don't know. And as soon as it got uploaded, it quickly gained notoriety all over the site. The story revolves around a white-bodied creature in the mountains that possesses a young girl, and her father is warned that if they don't save her within 49 days, she'll be lost forever. The creature is described as resembling Jamila from Ultraman, and it has since become an urban legend in Japan. And this creature looks like something else. It doesn't have a head, but instead one large human face with a broad grin straight across the chest. And, oh yeah, it hops around on one leg. The story takes place in the mountains that border Miyazaki and Yamagata prefectures, particularly on Tashiro Ridge. This area is known for its strange events such as ghostly rumors, UFO sightings, and even a rumored underground military base. It's not surprising that a creature like the Yamanoke would fit right in with all these other oddities reported in this area. So what exactly is a Yamanake? Some people believe it could be an alien that frequently visits Tashio Ridge, but others think it's most likely a spirit or a kami. Kami are Japanese spirits that inhabit various natural elements, including mountains. They're often associated with Japanese folklore and mythology, and some people believe they have the power to possess humans. Number 6, the purple mirror. Back in the day, there was a young girl who was given a mirror by her mother. The girl loved the mirror so much that she spent most of her time staring at herself in it. She was so desperate to be beautiful that she did everything possible to maintain her beauty. And so every time she looked in the mirror, she felt gorgeous as a result of her hard work. However, after a few years, the girl decided to redecorate and painted the mirror purple. When she looked into it, she was shocked by her appearance. She was dangerously thin and her hair was limp and stringy. The obsessive beauty standards that she had put on herself had taken a toll on her body now, and now she could see that she was not maintaining her beauty. She was actually sabotaging it. The girl then threw the mirror on the ground, completely shattering it. Then a little while later, she was making the final arrangements for her coming of age party on her 20th birthday when she was caught in a freak car accident. People say that she perished on the scene while whispering, "Purple mirror, purple mirror, purple mirror." And after this was reported, her parents decided to search for this mirror, but they never ended up finding it. The legend has it that if you do not forget the phrase "purple mirror" by your 20th birthday, the same thing will happen to you. Or that if you have a purple mirror, just completely remove it out of your home. Just do it. In the hump of our list, we have Kayoko. Do you remember her? This was definitely a fear for 90% of y'all. The eerie humming sound combined with the black hair covering the face, early 2000s horror peak at its finest. As many of you know, Kayoko is a vengeful spirit who haunts those who enter her home. In the official novel written by Kei Ohishi and based on other Japanese iterations, she spent most of her time with her cat Kuro and was highly antisocial. Then in college, Kayoko met Kobayashi and fell deeply in love with him. She marries another one named Takio Saki, the only person who understands and cares for her during this hard time. As time goes by, Kayoko begins to have feelings for Kobayashi again, which she writes in her journal. Takio then discovers her journal and becomes obsessed with the idea that Kayoko is cheating on him with Kobayashi. Or even worse, that their son Toshio might not actually be his. As a result, he violently attacks Kayoko, leaving her paralyzed and unable to move, before finally snapping her neck and crushing her throat. So painful and torturous that she becomes an Oliro, a vengeful spirit who haunts those who enter her home. And if you've seen the movies, you definitely don't want to enter her home at any cost because there's nothing good that comes out of it. Number 4, the Honeona. In Japanese mythology, the Honeona or bone woman is a spirit whose face, hands, and neck appear to be that of a young attractive female. However, the rest of her body bears no flesh at all. Hence, her bone name. It's said that she uses her beauty to seduce unsuspecting men, where she would lure them into a dark, isolated area. I bet these guys are thinking that they're the man, alone in Japan with a pretty girl. However, this is exactly what Honeona wants them to think. Because when they're alone, she reveals her true form and then sucks their life force energy, leaving them as a pile of dust. In other accounts, the Honeona are said to be spirits of a young woman who cannot move on from their past lovers. To their loved ones, they look normal, but for everyone else, they appear as the bone woman. Regardless of who is in front of them, they will suck up their life's energy, causing illness or all sorts of other tragedies in the process. I don't think I'll be ever falling in love with a pretty girl ever again, especially in Japan after seeing this one. Number 3, the ghost of the tsunami. The second season of the popular show Unsolved Mysteries has taken viewers to Ishinomaki, Miyagi, Japan, where a 9.1 magnitude earthquake followed by a powerful tsunami struck in March 2011. The survivors have struggled to cope with the disaster's aftermath, but the 4th episode of Unsolved Mysteries, titled Tsunami Spirits, uncovers the story of the victims themselves. Multiple people in the area reported supernatural encounters with ghosts who were looking to find their way home after the disaster. Sociology graduate student Yuka Kuru was writing a paper in the months after the tsunami struck, focused on the experience of taxi cab drivers in the region who were convinced that they had given rides to ghosts. Kudo spoke to more than 100 taxi cab drivers in the stricken area, and 7 were forthcoming with their experiences. The episode also features Reverend Taiyo Kanada, a Buddhist monk who worked with people who claimed to be possessed by the spirits from the tsunami. Richard Lloyd Perry, in his book Ghosts of the Tsunami, Death and Life in Japan's Disaster, summarizes the experiences of Takashi Ono, who lived miles away from the tsunami but became possessed after driving to the beach to survey the devastation. The increased sightings of ghosts after the tsunami were theorized to be the result of PTSD, but it's just crazy to think that multiple people had similar experiences after this devastating event. It's probably ghosts. Number 2, the kune kune. The legend arose in Japan where sightings of a creature are reported in rice fields or in an open sea. The creature resembles a tall white mannequin made of fabric almost like an inflatable tube man. There's a story where one summer, two brothers decide to visit their grandparents in the countryside. They're playing outside when they notice a figure in the distance, wiggling in the wind. But when the wind stopped, the figure kept on wiggling. Curious, the older brother took binoculars to see the figure, but as he did, he stopped breathing and turned blue with sweat running down his entire body. The younger brother asked what he saw, and the older brother responded that, quote, "It's better not to know." But the voice that came out was not his brother's. Later that day, the older brother was found laughing uncontrollably, wiggling in the fields similar to the creature he saw earlier. The family was terrified and decided to leave the farm, but leave the older brother behind with the grandparents. But as the family was leaving, the little brother looked out at his window at his older brother in the field, and all he could see was his brother laughing with somewhat a sad smile on his face. And guess what? He was still wiggling. A little while after seeing this, the younger brother would begin to show symptoms of cold sweats and uncontrollable laughter. And as the family moved into the new house, the younger brother would end up in a field wiggling just like his brother. Number 1, the Peko-chan. Peko-chan is the mascot of the Milky Candies, but her story is more sour than sweet. The story goes that Peko-chan was actually based on a young girl who passed away during the 1940s. The legend goes that during World War II, there was a huge food shortage in Japan, and because of this, many people, including women and children, were starving to death. So Peko-chan's mother decided to cut a piece of her arm off and even offered it to Peko to eat. This is the moment where Peko-chan discovered how tasty human flesh was. In fact, she had never tasted anything so good in her life. She couldn't resist with just a piece, so she decided to kill her mom and eat her entire body. And ever since, she's been constantly craving human meat, living the rest of her days as a cannibal. In the logo, it said that she keeps her tongue out because she's licking her mother's blood off her cheeks. And if that wasn't enough, the company's slogan is directly translated to "Milky tastes like a mama." Guess I'm never eating these candies ever again, especially if I decide to visit Japan. At a number 10 spot, we have the Yeti. In a recent discovery that has sparked a flurry of excitement among Twitter users, the footprints of a Yeti were found by Indian Army mountaineers near the Makulu base camp in Nepal. The footprints, which measured a staggering 32 inches, were photographed and then posted on Twitter, prompting people to speculate whether the expedition team was actually serious about their findings or they're conducting a trolling experiment on their followers. For those unfamiliar with the Yeti, it is the mysterious cousin of the Bigfoot, both part of the same extremely elusive family. The legend of hairy, oversized hominids lurking at the outer reaches of civilization has been around for centuries and is part of the folklore of several cultures. But could these footprints really be from the Yeti? And if Yetis are real, how could they have existed for so long without one clear HD photo? According to Daniel C. Taylor, author of Yeti, The Ecology of a Mystery, the footprints were most likely created by a bear and its cub, rather than a dinosaur-sized or mythical half-human creature. While the footprints in the photos appear to lead into bushes, Mr. Taylor noted that he would expect to find a clear set of prints where the trail leads to. But this doesn't mean there's no Yeti. Mr. Taylor even listed 3 types of Yetis in his book. The first Yeti is the legend, much like Santa Claus. The second Yeti is the Yeti that lives inside of people, fueled by their need to be closer to nature. And the third and final Yeti is the one that actually made the footprints, the mama and her cub. At our number 9 spot, we have the Beer Hospital. Beer Hospital in Nepal has been providing free medical services to the abandoned, helpless, and poor patients. However, the hospital has been failing to ensure the safety and comfort of these patients. Patients like Bikash Thurisha, who is diagnosed with tuberculosis, and June Maya Bajul, who is diagnosed with breast infection, has been receiving free medical service at this hospital, but they have not been provided with proper rooms and beds. The hospital has allocated 26 beds for abandoned patients in the emergency ward, which is not sufficient for the number of patients being brought in daily by the police. Due to the lack of beds and human resources, the quality of treatment has been deteriorating rapidly, resulting in more than 50% of such patients succumbing to their diseases. And you know what that means? Some supernatural activity as well. On top of that, there are rumors that a notorious satanic cult operates inside of the hospital, in which they conduct dark rituals and human sacrifices in the basement. Visitors to the property constantly report different sorts of paranormal activity, and they mention apparitions, disembodied voices, and strange mists that seem to appear from nowhere. Number 8. Sundarjal Bang. Also considered the river that needs human sacrifice, this waterfall is probably not the best place to visit in Nepal. Sundarjal, a region located near the bustling city of Kathmandu, is known for its large river that provides drinking water to the city's inhabitants. However, despite its importance, the locals believe that the river is haunted and they refuse to go anywhere near it. The river flows through a lush jungle which is rumored to be home to many tormented spirits. According to the legend, the river has a thirst for human lives and takes the lives of those who come near it. Every year there are incidents where tourists and locals fall into the water and completely vanish. Some people believe that the spirits of those who died in the river still roam along the riversides. However, it's unclear whether these stories are true or they're just simply a developed folklore and people are just tripping over here. At our number 7 spot, we have Devghat. Devghat is a religious Hindu site located in Chitwan, also known as Aryaghat. However, a chilling incident on July 12, 2009 shook the town when the skull of a female was recovered from the region. And it was just the beginning, as the police began to recover numerous bones and skulls from the area after that. The situation got even stranger when locals started witnessing 4 old women visiting the spot every night to perform a dance ritual. The women would set fire to themselves at midnight while performing, making it an eerie sight to behold. However, the discovery of human bones in this area is not new to locals, as Devghat is known as the land of cremation, and it is also considered a ceremonial site for black magic believers. In the past, skulls of various people were also reportedly removed from the spots, and nevertheless, the identity of these 4 old women still remains a mystery. Locals claim to see these 4 to 5 women apparitions approaching the river by night, and they appear to be dancing, but they're floating above the ground. But the most crazy thing about this is that they do this dance while completely engulfed in flames. Number 6. The Bokshi. Nepal legend says that witchcraft is widely practiced in remote areas of Nepal, except at this time, their witch description was far from accurate. Basically, any woman who had something bad to say or raised her voice at the patriarchy would be considered a witch or a bokshi. The problem with the term bokshi is that it has become so extreme that women are being murdered in the name of this specific ritual and are forced to become a ghost, where they will be lost and seen roaming around the streets looking for answers. Even to this day, people are getting accused of being witches. Am I being confused, or am I still living in the Salem witch trial still? Because why are people still believing in this stuff? In the hunt for our list, we have the Ranaban. Many people know Ranaban for their breathtaking views and incredible sceneries, but inside of this nature escape is hidden something very dark. Within the jungle of Ranaban village, there is a gigantic tree looking straight out of a cartoon with its widespread and exposing roots. Except, take away the beauty from this tree and you might understand why locals avoid this specific tree altogether. Warning, the story is pretty explicit. Legend goes that several years ago, a man assaulted and murdered a girl right underneath this tree, and after some research, this turned out to be a true story and has a lot more disturbing details I can't even mention. However, after her death, people in the area started to hear noticeable crying coming from under the tree, but when they went to investigate, nothing was there. And to make this even more spookier, just days after, the man who murdered the girl was executed by hanging on the very same tree. So best believe there's more than one ghost sitting under this tree, and you should just probably avoid sitting here altogether. Number 4. Dao Hill. Located in northeastern region of Nepal, lies a forest that will make you feel scared and uncomfortable the entire hike. The forest known as Dao Hill is considered one of the most haunted spots in Nepal, and for good reason. Visitors to the forest have reported feeling a sense of being watched, almost as if eyes are following their every move. Some even claim to have catch glimpses of strange movements in their periphery, only to turn and find nothing there. However, the occurrences don't stop there. There has been reports of a screaming woman in the woods, and several visitors have claimed to see red eyes peeking at them from the trees above. But perhaps the most famous ghost sighting in Dao Hill is that of a headless boy, who has been seen wandering through the forest and down a street known as Death Road. What a lovely name. Even the high school situated beside the woods is believed to be haunted as well. Many visitors claim to hear loud whispers coming from inside the lockers and footsteps during the closed months. So best believe not only the woods are haunted, but this whole entire area. Number 3, the ghost of Mount Everest. Being the tallest mountain in the entire world, people are bound to come in the thousands to conquer the challenge. However, with a fatality rate at 14%, many climbers have not been able to finish their trip, and their bodies still lay on this mountain due to a lot of safety issues in recovering them. So best believe after seeing these bodies and hearing the horrific stories, some ghost stories in Everest are bound to pop up. On your journey to the top, chances are you'll come across the 3,000 corpses that line the mountain to this day. One is a man only known as Green Boots, but his real name was Swang Paljor. Many climbers claim to see the apparition of a climber with green boots, encouraging them to push through it. Being at such an extreme height, many mountaineers suffer from altitude sickness and causes many to see vivid hallucinations, so this really isn't a surprise. But it's not hard to believe that there may be some ghosts lurking on this mountain still to this day. Number 2, the Royal Palace of Nepal. On June 1st, 2001, one of the worst royal massacres occurred at the Royal Palace in Nepal, including King Birendra and Queen Aishwarya. The culprit turned out to be the son and crown prince Dipendra, who was said to have opened fire on the palace grounds when a party was happening. He shot his own dad, mother, and his own siblings. He was appointed king, but only for a temporary time, as he was in a coma since the attack due to shooting himself. Shortly after this massacre, locals around the palace began to report sounds of screaming, shouting, and the most notorious sound that they could document was the sound of gunshots. They claimed that it was the gunshots from the massacre, and its haunting sounds are still trapped in this palace to this day. Number 1, the water tank of Dapashi. Located in Dapashi, Basundara, lies this innocently looking underground tank to store water around the community. Although this is necessary for any community and serves a benefit, many locals are actually too afraid to go anywhere near it. Of course, this doesn't mean they couldn't get water due to their fear. Instead, they would probably ask someone else to get it. But what could stop people from getting a basic necessity like water? Well, it all started with the sounds of crying, shouting, and other strange noises coming from inside of the tank. And it was said the sounds grew even louder by the nighttime. This is also the time where locals claim that they also see a spirit of a decomposing man standing nearby the tank. The legend says that a group of robbers mugged a man near the water tank, and instead of a quick theft, one of the men accidentally killed the man, or so they thought. Then they decided to put the man's body in this tank, but once they locked it, they could hear the man alive struggling for his life. Soon after, the man would pass and the robbers would eventually get caught. But just imagine that your drinking water used to have a decomposing body inside of it. Doesn't this remind anyone of Cecil Hotel? Anyone? Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have Radiation Man. This is the story of a man who was kept alive for 83 days just so doctors could see the effects of radiation and how long a human could last. In 1999, 3 technicians at a nuclear power plant in Japan were involved in a catastrophic accident that left one of them, Hisashi Uchi, with the highest dose of radiation any human has ever experienced. Uchi, along with Masato Shinohara and Yutaka Yakokoa, were working at a plant when a nuclear reaction occurred, emitting neutron radiation and gamma rays all over the place. As a result, Uchi received a devastating 17 sieverts of radiation, while Shinohara and Yokokawa received fatal doses of 10 and 3 sieverts respectively. The effects of radiation on Uchi were immediate and severe, causing burns and completely damaging his internal organs and immune system. Despite being treated by a team of top medical professionals from around the world, Uchi's condition continued to deteriorate. He underwent numerous skin transplants and was kept alive through the use of blood and fluids, including drugs and life support. Tragically, on the 59th day of treatment, Uchi's heart stopped 3 times in just 49 minutes, causing severe damage to his brain and his kidneys. He eventually passed away on December 21st, 1999 due to multi-organ failure, spending the final 83 days of his life in intense pain and suffering. At a number 9 spot, we have the Unit 731. Yup, this story is terrible. Unit 731 was a Japanese biological warfare research unit that operated in China during World War II. It was headquartered in a facility in the Pingfan district, located in China, and they conducted experiments on human subjects in order to test the effectiveness on biological weapons and even study the effects of various diseases. The unit was established in 1936 and operated until the end of the war in 1945. It was led by Shiro Ishii, a Japanese army doctor, and was composed of several hundred scientists and medical professionals. The unit conducted a wide range of experiments on human subjects, including prisoners of war and civilians, often without their consent or even their knowledge. Some of the experiments conducted by Unit 731 included infecting subjects with diseases such as the bubonic plague, cholera, and typhoid fever. They would also study the effects of frostbite by deliberately exposing subjects to extreme cold and performing surgeries on live subjects without any sort of anesthesia. As a result, many of the subjects died in these experiments, and the unit is believed to have killed thousands of people during its operation. After the war, many of the members of Unit 731 were granted immunity from prosecution in an exchange for sharing the data they had collected with the United States. This decision has been heavily criticized, obviously, as it allowed the perpetrators of these atrocities to evade accountability for their actions. However, in more recent years, the Chinese government did call for Japan to take responsibility for this Unit 731 and to provide compensation to the victims and their families. The Chinese government was also called for the unit's activities to be recognized as war crimes and for the perpetrators to be held accountable once and for all. At a number 8 spot, we have the elevator man. Apparently some time ago, in a towering skyscraper located in Korea, there was a young woman named Karuko. She was a very bright 19-year-old student who lived in the 14th floor of her building, but on one fateful night, she had an experience in an elevator that would change her life. As the elevators began to close, a handsome stranger managed to slip his hand in order to stop them. The man stepped inside of the elevator and stood very close to Karuko. This is when the two began to flirt and engage in very small talk. The stranger told her he lived on the 13th floor, just one floor below her. As the elevator approached the 13th floor and the man walked out, the man suddenly turned around, turned to Karuko and said, "I'll see you upstairs." He then pulled out a knife as he left, he laughed and then disappeared towards the staircase. The doors of the elevator then shut, leaving Karuko alone and afraid. As the elevator continued to climb to the 14th floor, Karuko frantically pressed every button trying to get it to stop. But it was all in vain. The elevator doors finally opened up on the 14th floor, and to Karuko's terror, she found the man waiting for her. She was tragically slain before she could even scream for help, and since then, many have claimed this is a true story, and it's said to be the explanation why elevators now have this stop button. Some even say that the man who killed Karuko still roams the halls of this building, trying to lure innocent people into the elevator with him. And also, there is a game I mentioned in a lot of my past videos which include this story, and this is basically the origin story to that. So if you ever want to know more, just search up the elevator game online and you can even play this yourself. At a number 7 spot, we have the P-40 Ghost plane. In 1942, American radar detected a strange aircraft approaching their territory from Japan. Although it appeared to be an airplane, it did not have the typical markings of an aerial attack. The American military dispatched 2 pilots to intercept the mysterious plane. As they approached it, they discovered that the aircraft was a P-40, and they were surprised to find that it bore markings that had not been used since the Pearl Harbor attack. Additionally, they observed that the plane was in very poor condition, with bullet holes riddling the fuselage and the landing gear completely blown away. The pilots were amazed that the plane was even able to fly in the first place. However, they were shocked to find the pilot slumped in the cockpit, wearing a flight suit stained with fresh blood. When the pilots looked through the window, the pilot raised his hand slightly and turned toward them, offering a meek wave. Shortly thereafter, the plane crashed to the ground with a deafening roar. American troops arrived at the crash site but found no evidence of the pilot or any identifying markings from the plane. Researchers later found a diary at the crash site that helped them to determine that the plane must have come from Mindanao, which was an island 1,000 miles away. The rest of the story still remains a complete mystery. Some have speculated that the plane may have been downed over a year earlier and the pilot managed to survive on his own in the wild. He could have scavenged parts from other downed aircraft, repaired his airplane, and then navigated his way back to the homeland through hostile territory. However, the mystery remains as to how heavy the P-40 aircraft could have taken off without any sort of landing gear. Japanese records confirm that an American P-40 flew over Formosa on December 8th, 1942, but where it came, where it was headed, and how it even got airborne still remains a mystery. At a number 6 spot with the Maria Labo. Maria Labo was a woman from the province of Capiz in the Philippines who had a happy family consisting of a loving husband and 1 son. However, she decided to work abroad in England for the sake of her family's financial stability. Maria was lucky enough to have a good employer who treated her well, but she didn't know that her employer was a vampire, supposedly. It was said that Maria was a combination of a maid and a caregiver to this vampire employer, who would always provide her with half-cooked liver to eat. After a few months of working for him, Maria started to feel sick. Little did she know that she has ingested some of her employer's blood, which caused her this unknown illness. Eventually, Maria decided to return home to the Philippines to live with her family. Upon returning home, Maria's husband, who was a police officer, was very surprised to see her. She had already prepared dinner, but when her husband asked where their son was, Maria just replied, "Our son is right there." Her husband was confused, and it wasn't until he opened the refrigerator that he realized the horrific truth. The meat he had eaten that day was their own son. In a fit of rage, Maria's husband picked up a large knife and slashed her face, leaving a large scar, which is why she was called Maria Labo. Labo means scar in Filipino. From that day on, Maria went on a murderous rampage and stalked or hunted in many different locations within the Philippines. However, her husband continued to hunt for Maria because he just wanted to kill her and end all of this. It is also said that whenever Maria was known to be in any place within the Philippines, people would try to find and kill her in order to save her own children. So there would be this large hunt out for her, and it would just be crazy. In the hub of our list, we have the Hello Kitty murders. Our story begins in May 1999 when a 13-year-old girl approached the Hong Kong police, claiming that a woman whom her boyfriend had helped to kill was haunting her. The police was initially skeptical, but when the girl described how a 23-year-old woman was brutally tortured and bound with electrical wire in a third-floor flat on Granville Road 31, they knew they had to investigate. As they searched the apartment, they uncovered some truly horrifying evidence: a large Hello Kitty doll that had been stuffed with a woman's head. The victim of this ghastly crime was Fan Man Yi, a 23-year-old nightclub hostess who has been abducted for over a year, allegedly for failing to repay a $20,000 debt. According to the various media reports, Fan was held captive for over a month, during which time she was subjected to brutal torture on a daily basis until she eventually succumbed to her injuries. The men responsible for her death then chopped up the body into tiny pieces and disposed of it with the garbage. Some versions of the story claim that they even skinned her and boiled her. Although this is difficult to confirm, what is even more terrifying is that her severed head was sewn inside of a Hello Kitty doll, which became the bizarre story for this tragic accident, the Hello Kitty murder. When the news of this gruesome murder hit the press, it horrified residents of Hong Kong and sparked a media frenzy that lasted for months. As if the story couldn't get any more chilling, there was even reports of a shadowy female figure lurking near the apartment building where this happened, and it was captured on various CCTV cameras from nearby buildings. At our number 4 spot, we have the Tugu complex. In the city of Malang are 3 schools who are in deep connection with the horrors committed in World War II. Back in the 1940s, these 3 schools were used as concentration camps by the opposing Japanese soldiers. The Japanese created an underground system of crawl spaces and secret rooms that connected each school along with the local train station and governor's office. This would ensure accessibility everywhere. Legend says that 2 teenagers attempted to explore these tunnels and secret passageways, but after a short time, one student came out screaming while the other one was found weeks later in the train station in a trance-like state and unable to speak about the horrors he saw. Many believe it was the ghost of those who lost their lives there in World War II. Another occurrence is the bloodstains on the floor tiles in each of these buildings. And the odd thing is that workers say that removing these stains are nearly impossible, and some would even fall ill after completing the cleanup job, which is why they have stopped doing it completely. At a number 3 spot, we have the Orang Minyak. The Orang Minyak, or the oily man, is a creature that takes the shape of a man that is covered in a thick, murky black oil. It comes at the darkest time of night when it's almost impossible to see. It snatches young women in rural villages when they're sleeping, and this is why many people fear oil spills in the country, oddly enough. It can shapeshift into oil to slip through cracks in the walls and the floors, so there's basically no place to hide from the Orang Minyak. In Malaysia's past, young women were told to wear clothing that was worn by a man so that this creature couldn't catch their scent. Keeping a mirror nearby, it was also a must because this creature doesn't like to see their own reflection. This became such a big urban legend that some girls would cover their rooms in all mirrors, but in my opinion, that is just as creepy as this creature. Number 2, the Karak Highway. This Malaysian highway is said to be the world's most haunted highway. It is a 70-kilometer long interstate highway that connects Kuala Lumpur to the Genting Highlands. The amount of paranormal reports from this highway alone is enough to make someone take a way longer detour instead. The first of these incidents happened when a couple and their baby were returning one night from vacation. The car then suddenly broke down on the side of the road, and as he looked for someone to help, he notices the highway was completely empty. So he walks up to the closest nearby phone booth to call for help, but the man never ended up returning. After a few hours of waiting, his wife calls the police, but when they arrive, they tell her to not step out of the vehicle and to not look behind them. After walking a distance away, she turns around to see her husband's headless body being devoured by a banshee-like creature on top of their car. Also on Karak Highway, if you find yourself stuck behind a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, just get away from it. This vehicle is known to stalk drivers and even cause them to get into fatal accidents. So be extra careful if you guys decide to drive near this area in Malaysia. At a number 1 spot, we have the Mongolian deathworm. The Gobi Desert, located between Mongolia and China, is said to have a Mongolian deathworm, otherwise known as an intestine worm, due to its appearance of being fleshy and red in color. This 2 to 7 foot long creature has the ability to spit out venomous liquid out of its mouth, and if you ever get close enough to touch the creature, it is believed that the entire body is covered in a sticky, poisonous substance that will kill you on touch. And if that wasn't enough, it can even electrify you the same way an eel can. While movies on the creature depict it as being this large, colossal being, it's actually believed to be a lot smaller at around 7 feet. Regardless, the fact that this creature can hide anywhere in the desert sands and come out with basically no weaknesses makes it one of the most dangerous and scariest ones on this list.